Greetings from Father Isidore Clark. Today I'm going to reflect on the Gospel for the second Sunday of Lent. This is about Christ's transfiguration. Lord, it's good to be here. Peter was quite right. As Jesus journeyed to Jerusalem and the cross, he led his inner circle of disciples up the mountain, away from the pressure of the demanding crowd. There they found tranquility and peace. There Jesus revealed himself in a new light. Already the disciples accepted him as a man of God who taught and healed with power and authority. Peter had recently recognized Jesus to be the Christ, the promised Messiah for whom the Jews had longed. But on the mountain, Jesus radiated his divine glory, which until then had remained hidden. The disciples saw that the man Jesus was a God of glory. His transfiguration was a foretaste of how his humanity would be glorified when he rose from the grave. And Moses and Elijah appeared with him, talking with Jesus. Their presence confirmed that he had come to fulfill the law and the prophets, which they represented. And a voice from heaven endorsed Christ and his mission, with the words, "This is my beloved Son, listen to him." Witnessing the transfiguration was a remarkable experience for the disciples. For them it was a foretaste of heaven, in which not only Jesus would be glorified in his risen life, but they also would share in his glory. No wonder Peter wanted this wonderful experience never to end. But that was not the time for any of them to relax in peace. As the vision of his glory disappeared, Jesus had to lead the disciples down the mountain to face the horror of the cross. His passion would transform him from a man suffused with divine majesty to someone who would appear less than human. He would be despised and rejected, brutally executed as a criminal. And the disciples' faith in him would be tested to breaking point. Sadly, the transfiguration failed in its immediate purpose of reinforcing their commitment to the crucified Christ. Its meaning would only become clear in the light of the resurrection. But what has the transfiguration to say to us? Hopefully, we do enjoy being Christians. Following Jesus should give meaning and direction to our lives. With Peter, we should be able to say, "Lord, it's good to be here, close to you." For us, Jesus is indeed good news, the very best news. It's wonderful when at times God seems so very close, and we find praying easy. This gives us a small hint of the happiness of heaven. We want such moments never to end. But this is not the time for us to rest in the Lord. Like the disciples, we must descend the mountain and face the harsh realities of taking up our crosses and following Christ. That can become difficult and irksome. We may have all kinds of problems and temptations. Worse still, God may seem remote and prayer may become difficult. We may fear that God has deserted us and be tempted to give up. But he hasn't left us. Instead, he's testing our commitment to him when it's difficult. Are we simply fair-weather disciples who are prepared to follow Jesus when that's easy and pleasant? Or do we have the toughness and resilience to stand by him when the going gets rough? The transfiguration and the times when God seems very close are meant to be like oases in which our faith is refreshed and strengthened. We should draw on this when following Christ becomes difficult. That glimpse of the happiness of heaven is meant to sustain us on the rough desert road to the kingdom of heaven, in which we will share in the glory of the risen Lord. Only when we finally arrive will we be able to say with Peter, "Lord, it's good to be here." Then the happiness of resting in God's company will never end. A final point. The Transfiguration doesn't simply look to the future. Lent is a special time of grace when God helps us to transform our lives and even radiate something of His glory, which we began to share at our baptism. Hopefully, people will then realize God has given us something very special. Hopefully, that will inspire them to seek what we have received.